From the Ministry of the Presidency in Georgetown, this is This Week with the President.
Welcome to this edition of This Week with the President, a weekly news magazine which provides you with an in-depth look at the policies, programs and work of the President of Guyana in his quest to realise the good life for all Guyanese. I'm your host, Jasmine Payne. In the highlights this week, the public telecommunications policy in Guyana. President Grangers supports amendment on dress code policy. United Nations European Union welcome President Grangers' stance on the death penalty. And President Grangers celebrates 71 years. Those stories and more on This Week with the President. After years of deliberations and consultations, Guyana will soon see the transformation of its telecommunications sector with the passage of the Telecommunications Amendment Bill 2016, which will help to bring to fruition President David Grangers' vision of a new regime for a liberalized and competitive telecommunications sector. The Telecommunications Amendment Bill was first introduced in 2011 and revised in 2013, and was reviewed by a special select committee in the 10th Parliament, but was placed on hold when that Parliament was prorogued by then-President Mr. Donald Ramotar. With a liberalised telecommunications sector, this will attract new markets and investors in addition to the existing providers, and will also address the expansion of services and networks to far-reaching regions which are currently unserved and underserved. President David Granger has been staunch in his pushing for the passage of the bill even before taking up office. In January of this year, the President established an entire ministry centered on addressing all aspects of the digital economy, including public telecommunications and information technology. On the most recent episode of The Public Interest, the President said that these matters are central to national development and that the passing of the bill is long overdue.
If Guyana is to move forward, if Guyana is to catch up with the rest of the Caribbean, the rest of the world, if Guyana is to move forward, we need to have a more liberal landscape for communications. We need to ensure that all parts of the country can communicate easily.
Apart from the benefit of liberalization, however, the President has also spoken of the relief that the expansion of services will make for bridging the communication gap currently experienced by those living in far outlying areas such as the hinterland regions.
I would like to be able to go to Aruca. I'd like to go to Achirib down in the south, to Oriala. I would like to see that every single public building, the hospital, the police station, the schools, universities, the defense force would have Wi-Fi, like people to be able to go to the international airport. My vision is that the internet, the information superhighway should be free. And sooner rather than later, every Guyanese must be able to communicate without impediment, without restraint, without delay.
On Monday evening, while delivering her opening statement in the National Assembly, Minister of Public Telecommunications Mrs. Cathy Hughes said that the government recognizes the tremendous and increasing impact that the telecommunications sector has on the advancement of economies and societies around the world, and that the bill, which has been long promised, serves as a breakthrough for the telecommunications sector in Guyana.
The principal underpinnings of this bill are those of transparency, non-discrimination, level playing field, and fair competition. This bill establishes a modern regime which takes account of international best practices and tried and tested regimes. It draws particularly from laws and experiences in our sister CARICOM countries, including Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, and the OECS countries. It will be supplemented by significant, detailed regulations in 7 areas: licensing and spectrum allocation, authorization, pricing, spectrum management, interconnection and access, universal access service, telecommunications-related competition matters, and telecommunications-related consumer protection matters.
Apart from those benefits, the bill will also provide for the establishment of the Telecommunications Agency and will provide consumers with more reliable services that are competitively priced with a better quality.
It will create the framework for an open, competitive sector without exclusivity for any type of telecommunication network or service. And it will address the expansion of telecommunications networks and services into unserved and underserved areas and regions of Guyana. Much effort has been put into the design of this legislation to ensure that it is effective and it can be implemented as early as possible. The bill enshrines the characteristics of transparency and non-discrimination in the issuances and regulation of licenses and frequency authorizations, seamless interconnection and access between and among telecommunication networks and services at cost-based pricing and price regulation where required to ensure fair competition and safeguards to consumers.
Both President Granger and Minister Hughes have given credit for the passage of the bill to both sides of the House, as the work for the bill would have begun under the previous administration. It is intended that in the not-too-distant future, with wider access to information and a more liberal telecommunications sector, Guyana will be up to par with the rest of the world in the area of information technology. After much public outcry, the Guyana Revenue Authority and the Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission have made a positive move forward with regard to relaxing the strict guidelines of the dress code usually required by government agencies for persons conducting business or working at those locations. This recent move has been met with much approval by the public. In many instances over the years, persons have been barred from entering the premises of government agencies even while being moderately dressed due to not adhering to the often stringent requirements outlined in these dress codes. More recently, the subject of dress codes has once again become topical as more persons, particularly women, both young and old, have borne the brunt of overzealous security personnel who, in an effort to observe the prescribed dress codes of their organizations, have turned away or refused entry to persons who have been deemed inappropriately dressed. Many had hoped that with the professional yet chic dress style of First Lady Mrs. Sandra Granger, particularly her love of sleeveless shift dresses at events both casual and formal, there would have been some positive impact on the perception of what is currently considered decent clothing by these agencies. President David Granger believes that the code of dress is archaic and must be amended to suit the ordinary Guyanese. The President made known his belief on this week's edition of The Public Interest, where he said that the dress code, while catering to modesty, must also be reflective of the weather and comfort of individuals.
The dress code, I don't know where it came from, but it seems to be quite archaic in some respects. In the 1970s, we started moving towards comfort and towards particularly allowing females to dress comfortably in accordance with the weather and, of course, what they could afford, bearing in mind the needs for decency. And it is my view that some of the requirements in the so-called code, they're certainly not law. They seem to be a bit backward. I don't think there's need for, in 2016, there's need for that sort of restriction. It's an unnecessary imposition, particularly when people have to travel distances to transact business with the government.
The President noted that it is an imposition and in some cases has been taken to extreme lengths which are totally unnecessary. He noted that he has received complaints, and while it is not a government policy, it may require attention and intervention if the public outcry continues to grow.
I'm aware I got complaints from parents in a certain part of the hinterland where the children were being told to wear white socks and black shoes. I have been to schools in which an entire class was barefooted, had no shoes at all. You mean that because of the dress code, those children will be deprived of an education? They can't afford shoes. So This is not an area that has engaged the government at a legislative level. This is some minor bureaucrat, probably promulgating, rules which are obviously prejudicial.
The head of state said that once public morality is not offended, persons must be able to be comfortably dressed and allowed to conduct their business at public places and organizations.
We need to be much more liberal, and I am in agreement with serving the public interest first. If the person is clean and decently clad and doesn't offend public morality, I think the public services should be extended to those persons.
Since the debate began over the last few days, the two government agencies which have amended or completely relaxed their dress code cited that no dress code is more important than the state's business or revenue. The Guyana Revenue Authority this week announced that it has abolished its dress code with immediate effect, as chairman of the board of directors of the organization, Mr. Raul Lucas, said that no person must be turned away from the organization for not being deemed appropriately dressed to conduct their business transactions. Commissioner of the Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission, Mr. Trevor Ben, also echoed similar sentiments as he announced last week that the agency has amended its dress code to allow persons in to conduct their business. Regional and international cooperation and friendly and cordial bilateral relations with the countries in the various hemispheres, as well as international organizations, have always been a priority area for President Granger. The President has always publicly stated that Guyana has no enemies and will not ever endeavor to make enemies, but will rather build bridges for economic, social, and even cultural cooperation so that all involved can benefit. As in the good times, these relations must extend in the times of difficulties and tragedies. It is in this faith that President Granger on Saturday evening said that Guyana stands firmly behind France, even as he condemned the July 14, 2016 terror attack in Nice during the Bastille Day celebrations, which claimed more than 80 lives. The President, who was at the time delivering an address at a reception held by the French consulate in Guyana to observe its National Day, said that Guyana empathizes with France and extends its support and prayers.
The celebration of this year's Fête Nationale has been dampened by the tragic and terrible atrocity in Nice last Thursday, 14th of July, your National Day. Guyana joins in condemning this act of terrorism. We extend our deepest condolences to the President of the Republic, to the government, to the French people, and to the families of all those who were killed and injured in this repugnant act of terror. Guyana reiterates its repudiation of the use of violence against innocent civilians. We abhor the use of force to settle disputes and to unsettle peace and security, both among and within nations.
Guyana, he said, stands determinedly against intimidation, including threats to its own territorial integrity. This country remains committed to the rule of law, international peace and security, international cooperation, and partnerships to combat extant transnational threats, and therefore empathizes with the victims and other affected persons. On a softer note, President Granger said that Guyana and France have enjoyed cordial relations over the years. This can only be strengthened in the coming years with cooperation in a number of areas.
The friendship between our two republics forms a firm foundation on which to enhance our collaboration in confronting common transnational threats. Excellency, Guyana applauds France's efforts, and particularly the leadership of President François Hollande in ensuring the achievement of a global agreement on climate change in Paris last December. The Paris Agreement opens new opportunities for cooperation in order to respond to the global threat of climate change.
In the meantime, France's ambassador to Guyana, Mr. Michael Prom, expressed appreciation for the care and support which has been shown by the Guyanese people to his country in its time of grief. The ambassador said that Guyana and France's relations have always been more than bilateral, and it is his hope that this will continue to grow over the coming days, especially in the area of climate change, a fight, he said, Guyana is leading.
Our relations have not only bilateral interest, but also aim at setting up action and position in larger frames, regional and global. On climate change, for example, the work that we did together to allow to reach an agreement in Paris was essential. Our minister said that implication of the countries of Latin America and Caribbean was decisive in this negotiation. Guyana is at the forefront in the fight against climate change and protection of environment and biodiversity. As presidency of the COP21, we wish to go on collaborating in the implementation of this agreement, which Guyana has signed and ratified in very short delays. It is very important that the work we have already done together, and also with the Caribbean community, with the European Union and other actors, in order to preserve a common heritage, notably the one that we share on the Guyana Shield, and to highlight the specific threat to the region, which has also tremendous assets for the world.
Guyana and France established diplomatic ties on June 22, 1967. The two countries will celebrate 50 years of diplomatic relations in 2017. Even as members of civil society and United Nations continue to call for the abolition of the death penalty in Guyana, President Grangers has said that he will not, at any time during his tenure in office, assent to the execution of any person serving a death sentence. Instead, he said he will be guided by advice from the National Assembly and public consensus, and even hinted at the possibility of a referendum. At the same time, the president said that while he is personally against the death penalty, the citizenry have a right to air their views before a definitive decision is taken.
Well, I am advised by a cabinet. I am advised by my coalition partners. I am advised by the National Assembly. And in the final analysis, by the people of Guyana. Guyana is an independent sovereign state, and it is not for me to get ahead of what the people want. Right now, as I said, that I do not envisage any circumstance under which I would be willing to assent to the death penalty, even though it remains on the books. As you know, there has been a moratorium of over 2 decades. All I would say is that if the cabinet were to consider it, and if the National Assembly were to consider it, and even if there was a deadlock, we can go to a referendum. Let the people say what they want to occur in this jurisdiction, in the state of Guyana. But that is openness, that is transparency, that is consultation. What do the people want?
Meanwhile, President Grangers' stance on the issue has not gone unnoticed, as Mr. Ivan Simonovic, Assistant Secretary General of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, United Nations Headquarters, who paid a courtesy call to the President at the Ministry of the Presidency earlier this week, said that the United Nations and the European Union are pleased by the position which has been taken. In an invited comment, Mr. Simonovic said that the organizations too welcome the involvement of the population in the decision.
It was a very good discussion. President's statement that we have heard recently, that during his tenure there would not be any executions, is a very encouraging one. I would think that also it is very encouraging that the government intends to establish a committee that will be reflecting on the issue of death penalty. It is extremely good because experience in other countries have proven that the more there is information about death penalty, the more discussion about the death penalty, there is a strengthening of the trend of moving away from it. So we welcome this development very much.
On Wednesday, the visiting team spearheaded a panel discussion at the Marriott Hotel Guyana, where they also called for the death penalty to be abolished. Guyana remains the only Caribbean region which has yet to abolish capital punishment. However, many remain optimistic with the position which has been adopted by President Granger, not only to withhold his assent to any executions, but to have the Guyanese people speak and let their voices be heard. President Granger's stance to respect human rights can be seen in many of his policies. One such example is in his amnesty program, which caters to teenagers and women, particularly mothers who have been convicted for non-violent crimes. The president has also spoken extensively on the need for appropriate programs and initiatives to be implemented in the penal system, so that the prisoners, though offenders of the law, can be taught skills in the system while serving their sentences so that they can be reintegrated into society. Now we'll take a look inside the President's diary. President David Granger on Wednesday at the Ministry of the Presidency accepted letters of credence from Ambassador Kim Holland Christensen, accrediting him as non-resident ambassador of the Kingdom of Denmark to Guyana. During the ceremony, President Granger and Ambassador Christensen committed to ensuring that the existing friendly relations between the two countries are further strengthened for the benefit of both nations. Ambassador Christensen said that Guyana and Denmark share common areas of interest. The two nations also share a long-standing relationship marked by mutual respect and friendship. He added that he will work to ensure that the relationship continues to bloom. On July 15, President Granger celebrated his 71st birthday and observed this milestone by spending time with his colleagues, his staff, and his family. The President began his day at a special breakfast organized by the People's National Congress at Congress Place, Sophia. At that function, the President said that the celebration of such a milestone aids in the renewal of his drive and determination to provide a high quality of life for all Guyanese. As such, he noted that the observance of his birthday is one for the Guyanese people as a whole.
I have a mission to perform. I keep looking ahead, and I don't dwell on the past. I don't dwell on hurt. I don't dwell on things which I can't change anymore. Nobody can change the past, but we can all change the future. And it is about the future that this 71st birthday is all about. And of course, my little granddaughter who called this morning to say happy birthday, Grandpa, Farah. I always wonder what sort of country we will bequeath to that generation. Will we bequeath those holes in the ground, the abscesses of Region 8? Or will we give her a country, a bountiful country, a country with the greatest biodiversity in the Caribbean, a country of prosperity, a country where we don't face, or we don't have to confront the sort of interpersonal violence that we see on a daily basis.
Later, the President joined his staff and members of the Guyana Police Force at the Ministry of the Presidency for a simple celebration.
Happy birthday to you.
The President expressed his gratitude to the staffers and commended them for their dedication to the work of the ministry, stating that such dedication will ultimately help with the achievement of his vision for the country.
I think we've set ourselves a course in this country, and I am very confident that all of you as members of the presidency understand the direction that we're moving in, and you feel happy to be part of that movement.
On July 16, the President and First Lady, Mrs. Sandra Granger, visited the Hope Children's Home at Enmore, East Coast, Demerara, and spent quality time with the children there as part of his continued birthday celebrations. While there, President Granger and Mrs. Granger sang national songs and made merry with the staff and children of the home. The event was organized by the Press and Publicity Unit and was the culmination of a ministry-wide book drive for the children of the orphanage. Almost 400 books, stationery and toys were handed over to the home in support of President Granger's focus on an education nation. The President also gave brief sentiments about his hopes for the children of the center and throughout the country.
We have an opportunity in Guyana now to continue to remove inequalities so that persons who have any challenges would get the same opportunity or equal opportunity to be the best that they could be. And the ministry and the government will do everything possible to ensure that they enjoy the benefits of this beautiful land.
President Granger, while presenting the items, said that the home will continue to receive support from the government as he remains focused on ensuring that every child has the opportunity to reach his or her fullest potential through education. That brings us to the end of this edition of This Week with the President. Thank you for joining me. For regular updates on the Ministry of the Presidency, visit our website www.motp.gov.gy. Like our Facebook page, Ministry of the Presidency, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MOTP Guyana. Do have a safe and productive rest of the week. Goodbye.